Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have with us on our first interview series, Mr. Dirk Fischer, who's the founder of GAO Experts, based in Germany, in Stuttgart, and has been associated with a lot of different organizations in the positions ranging from an engineer to a top-notch managerial position like COO. It's a pleasure having you, Mr. Fischer, this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining in. So the aim of this interview series is to educate the youth and young professionals about different topics ranging from entrepreneurship to the skills that they should develop. And we'll also dig deep into your journey and how do you handle tasks on a day-to-day basis. So I would like to begin by asking you this question. How has your journey been so far, and how have you been able to reach at the point where you are? And if you may share a couple of stories, some interesting facts for us.
Okay, well, before I answer this question, thank you very much. The pleasure is on my side, and I feel honored to be chosen by you for this interview. So I hope I can meet the expectations. So let's see. So coming back now to your question, I mean, what is probably important? When I started my professional career, it started from the very beginning. It started in automotive business. So I was always working for automotive suppliers, mainly tier 1 suppliers, so direct deliveries to OEMs, to car makers. This in itself is important because I think automotive industry is still setting the pace and is a very professional industry. I think that's already an important part. I'm not saying that with other industries you will not develop or something, but automotive is quite a difficult business, and you really learn a lot. When I actually started, I was working at a very small company, and why was this important? Because as it was a small company, I was actually doing nearly everything you can do in this company. So I even produced parts. So when after on Saturday, if nobody was coming to the company and I had to make a delivery on Monday, sometimes I went to the production and made the parts. And if it was an easy job, of course. If it was too difficult, I would not have done it. But if it was an easy job, I did it. I did cost calculations. I did shipping. I drove parts to outsourced services like zinc plating or whatever. I made PSWs, how we call it, sample reports. I was looking for the deliveries. I was making capacity planning. And that, why is this important? Because it gave me from the very beginning, it gave me a broad view on what is important in a manufacturing plant. So other people, they maybe start in one function and then they do this for the next 5 to 10 years and they only do this. So I think I was really lucky that I started in such a small company and I was forced to do all these jobs. That was really a very good base training, base education, or how do you want to call it. Secondly, I was, as it was in the early 90s, so there was a lot with ISO 9000 certification, quality management systems. So I was also in charge of implementing ISO 9002. So I started to work with quality systems and to learn about quality systems, which was another important thing because I learned how a system, a production system, a quality system, how it should work and what is important. So that was also an important step to learn and to really study what is ISO 9002 and what does it mean for this company. As the company was then, as I said, small and there was not really a big chance for growth, for personal growth, I joined, 4 years later, I joined an international automotive supplier, with several thousand people and global footprint and so on. And here I had the big luck that somebody sent me to a Kaizen workshop. So what is a Kaizen workshop? A Kaizen workshop is a workshop where you basically learn on Monday the theory about Toyota production system, and then the rest of the week you actually apply what you have learned on Monday on an assembly line, on the production line. You make all kind of studies, time studies, spaghetti chart, you make all kind of calculations, and you change the layout of the line and so on. So you really make, within 1 week, you really make an improvement on the line. Yeah. And that was basically, and that was in 1996, that was basically a key point in my career, because in this first week, in this first Kaizen week, I really understood, wow, this is really what I need to know. This is really, if I want to be a good production manager, I need to know this. This is number one top priority knowledge that I need to have. So I went back from this workshop and I bought all kinds of books and studied myself and learned about the Toyota production system. And then I had a mentor. And that was the guy who was managing, or who was conducting the workshop, the Kaizen workshop. And he saw that I'm really interested in this, and he really mentored me, and he really said, okay, I want you to be our lean expert in Europe. So please make now your own workshops, start in your own plant and start with the first workshops. And I did. And of course, the first workshops, they were a disaster, because you are not knowing enough, you're not experienced enough to run such a workshop in a smooth way. But I went through it, and was an interesting learning experience. And I think over my career, I have now done probably 100, more than 100 of these Kaizen workshops myself. And this is really where I learned a lot about Toyota production system. Because there's an interesting statement that says the real teaching is the real learning. So in these Kaizen workshops, I was the teacher. I wanted to teach the people the Toyota production system. So, and actually I was probably the one who was the most, who learned the most, in these kind of events, because I repeat, teaching is the real learning. And this is, I think it is an absolute true statement. So I was lucky to do all this, and that really gave me a very good background, I think, on these kind of tools and on this kind of Toyota production system concepts and so on. Another thing that was really important in the career was that at the age of 26, 1996, it was already the first time that I had responsibility for people. So there was a production area in this plant, it was about 100 people, and I was basically the production manager for this production area. So that is also important, because if you have responsibility for people, and if you know, and if you learn that the performance of your area is dependent on the people working in the area, and if you really understand that, I think you treat people in a different way, and you understand the importance of people and the importance of how much they support what you are doing or what you are proposing. So that was a very important lesson to learn as well. So, so quite early, again, at the age of 26, I had the first time in my life I had the responsibility for people. So then what happened? As I have learned these tools, these Toyota production system tools, and I applied them really very consistently, and frequently and persistently, I was able to improve a lot. we every line we looked at, we always found huge potential, and the typical results, if you go into a plant that never really applied these tools and this way of analysis, a typical result is you can easily increase the productivity by 30-40% within 1 week by doing these workshops. And I did it, and it was the same results. It was always somewhere between 20-40%. And and of course my bosses, they like that. I mean, who does not like if you improve productivity? Yeah. So I was relatively early in my career. I was given a production manager job, and then I had my first plant manager role at the age of 28. It was a small plant, only 100 people. But I think that was quite a fast track, to be honest. Yeah, and I was really lucky that I was given these opportunities. But on the other side, somehow I think I partly delivered a little bit. Otherwise, I would not have stayed in these jobs or been given the opportunity. So well, yeah, you need the opportunities. You need to have the mentor who sees that you have a certain talent, who believes in you. You need to deliver. You need to do it in a good way. And I was very lucky to learn all these things about Toyota production system, and I was very lucky to really achieve some impressive results over the years by always applying the same principle and the same thinking. So by that, as I said, with 28, I had my first plant manager. With the age of 30, I was plant manager of a bigger plant with 400 people, 100 million euro of sales. With 33, I was responsible for 9 plants in Europe, was 300 million euros of sales, was, I think, 1,800 people or something. And so I developed step by step, becoming an MD, becoming a COO, a vice president operations, or whatever. And that's basically it. So having a good toolbox, knowing, and what is even more important is understanding the principles that are where the tools are based upon. Yeah, so that is really key, that you not just know the tools and know somehow how to apply the tools, and you do not really actually know why. You just do it because somebody told you. It's even much stronger if you know why a certain tool is giving you a certain result, or is helping you in a certain environment. Yeah, and over the years I was able to come to this level that I really understood some of the principles and not just the tools, and that is really important, that you understand the principles and not just how to apply the tools. Well, and then again over the year, I was always given jobs where the company had big problems with profitability, problems with customers, delivery problems, quality problems. So I was always thrown in this kind of environments. So you really had always a big pressure to improve fast, to improve quickly. And Toyota production system always helped me to achieve this. Yeah, that's basically it. So it's a combination of being given the chance, having a good mentor, knowing some good concepts, some good tools, some good principles that really help you to succeed, and most important thing, understand how to involve the people and achieve that the people actually go with you and not against you. Yeah, because alone you can do nothing. You can be the most clever person in the world. If everybody believes you are an asshole, you achieve nothing. Yeah? So it's very important. So, and I had luck to somehow develop this kind of competencies over the years, and that made me quite helped me to be successful and to help companies to improve.
Awesome. That sounds like a really fascinating story, and I'm really awestruck by what you have achieved and the way that you have achieved that. That is even more interesting to know. So you have touched upon a lot of different topics, from mentoring, from opportunities, to applying different principles consistently. Really amazing. And also, one thing that I would like to tell youngsters after listening to you is that in order to be a superstar, you can once be a disaster. It's all right to be a disaster once and then consistently improve yourself. Awesome. So now that you mentioned that you have already reached the pinnacle, or you have already reached to the top, and you are now managing a lot of activities, I'm very excited to know, and I'm very eager to know, how does a life in a day of how does a day in a life of top executive look like? How do you spend your entire day?
Well, actually, there are different days. There are different types of days. So not every day is the same. So there is, for example, there is the type of days which are the review days. So a certain day or 2 certain days in a month, you are basically doing just reviews of plants. Yeah. So if you are responsible for more than one plant, if you have like a global responsibility for a group of plants, there is probably 1 or 2 days in a month where you are doing nothing than just plant reviews. So you look at the results, how was the last month, what are the KPIs, how is the P&L looking, how is the cash flow looking, what are the problems, what are the trends, is sales going up, is sales going down, what are the expectations. So basically you do nothing else but reviewing, and of course it's not just a one-way communication. Of course they present, then you ask questions, and you get a better understanding what's going on in the plant. Yeah. So that is one type of days. Another type of days is where in such a role that I'm doing, you actually have to go to the plants. You cannot sit in your office and do not visit the plants if you are responsible for the plants. Yeah. So I quite travel a lot. So there are then the travel days. So you go to the airport, you wait in the lounge, you fly somewhere, then you go to the plant, you make the plant tour, you go through the presentation of the plant again in more detail, you go through the KPIs again, and you have more detailed discussions on issues from the plant because you have more time. It's not just a 1 hour review on the plant. You stay there for 2-3 days, and you have really the chance to discuss some details. So that is the travel part. Yeah. Then there are some other days where you basically you need to work yourself. So you really work yourself on some kind of things, and then you sit and you call people. You call, hey, look, I'm working on that. I need your input, and so on. So you are just calling up people and have discussions, and you have meetings in the headquarters. You have meetings together with your colleagues. Management meetings and things like that. Well, and that's basically it. And it's not that every day is the same. As I said, there are types of days. And I can only say you should always plan for buffers. I would never advise you to have a full calendar, so that you start at 8 and it ends at 7, and every part of the Microsoft Outlook is full. I would not recommend that. You need some breaks, some buffers, because there's always some topics that you need to deal with immediately. Yeah. So it's always good to have some buffers. And that's basically it. This is how not my day, but my month is looking like. Yeah. Then of course, every quarter you have advisory board meetings where you present some topic for the advisory board. But this is on a quarterly basis usually. Then of course, at the second half of the year, Usually it starts September, October. A very heavy activity is the budget process for the next year, for the next 5 years, midterm forecast. Yeah, next year you make a detailed budget, but for the next 5 years you make a midterm forecast or something like that, a midterm plan. That's basically it.
Awesome. So I used to wonder, or I used to think as a child, that the life of top executives must be a bed of roses and it must be so comfortable. But it is now that I realize that how many things you have to manage, and you explained it so well, and you touched upon various different topics. So I would like to ask you this question: how do you keep a balance of your personal and professional life? How do you ensure that you don't overwork and neither do you underwork? So yeah, and how do you do that?
That's funny, because it for me, but maybe I'm a little bit specific here, but for me that was and is never really a question. Yesterday was Sunday, and basically most of the day I was I wouldn't call it working, because it was not that I was working on a specific task that I need to complete, but I was reading something in LinkedIn. I was watching some YouTube videos on throughput accounting. Maybe I'm a bit crazy, but for me it's not work. It's fun. And on the other side, I think if I want to be a good manager, I constantly need to learn myself. I constantly need to work on my self-development. And therefore, if you like, you could say I'm working most of the time. And for me, it's never really a question. So I remember we were on holidays, and then if I tell to my wife, sorry, today in the afternoon I have a very important call for 2 hours, so I need to go to the hotel room. I need to do this call. It's never a problem. She will never complain. She will say, okay, no problem. So maybe I'm very, very lucky here in that sense, that I don't have any pressure from the private life. But for me, it never really is a question. Do I now spend more time on work, or should I spend more time on private life? Maybe I'm a little bit an exception, and for other people it's a bigger problem, but for me it's not really a problem.
Awesome. So one thing that I understand is, when you're passionate about something, when you're enoughly passionate about something, then you don't have to really think about whether you're working or not. You always constantly strive to improve in that.
Exactly. I mean, if something like this makes you totally unhappy, then you should look for something else. I mean, then you should stop it, because it will only make you ill. Yeah. And but obviously I somehow like it.
So coming to the next question, I want to ask you, how do you deal with stress and especially failures? I'm sure you might have a lot of different things going on in your life, and then how do you deal with such negative emotions at times?
Okay, for me, let's split the question in two things. Let's split it in stress and negative emotions, because I think one thing I handle very good, the other thing I should be more professional on. Stress is something. I think there is something like positive stress and negative stress. Positive stress is basically, there's just a lot to do, but you know how to do it, you know what to do, and you have a good team around you that helps you to succeed. So it's a lot of work. You can call it stress, but it's not a negative stress. If you have negative stress, which is basically well, which I had also in my past life, where you're working for bosses who have a different kind of, in German we call it Weltbild, different picture of the world. You know, they have a different mindset than you have. They think that different things are more important than the things that you are think they are more important. This is really, that is something that I would consider creates negative stress, because you feel somehow blocked. You cannot really do, or you are slowed down. You could go faster, but something is stopping you. The environment, your boss, or whatever. So that can sometimes be negative stress, and that sometimes also gave me negative emotions. And to be honest, I'm not the one who can then just continue and say, okay, it is like that, I don't care. I very often, I decided then to quit or to look for other opportunities, or in some cases, not very often, but in some cases, people noticed that I'm not happy, and actually you can actually say they fired me. So it happens. I was fired at least 2 times in my career. I think people have to be honest to themselves. I think over the long term, it's not good if you are ignoring negative emotions. If you are not happy with a certain situation, you really have to be careful. You know, you really need to understand: is it me? Is it the environment? And I think you should not just continue with it. I think it will make you ill over time, and it's not beneficial for both parties. Yeah. So. So sometimes if it gets too negative, you need to escape. Yeah. And it's really sad, but there are many companies. I think they provide not a very good environment for the people. Yeah. And I mean, the famous study that everybody has access to is the famous Gallup study. I'm not sure whether you have ever heard about it. And it's basically, they do this every year, and every year it's the same result, that 80% of the workforce is not really engaged. And I must say, this is what I have observed myself. Yeah, that there are companies where this is really true. There's low engagement of people, and it's not really the people who are the problem. Yeah, it's the environment that is built, the environment that is provided, the kind of leadership that is allowed, that really creates the problem. So how do I deal with negative emotions? If I think I cannot change it, I probably in a few times I escaped. Positive stress, for me, it's not a problem, because this is where I'm there for. I mean, I'm not there for to always see the green light and everything is fine. I mean, we are there to solve problems. Can be problems with a customer, delivery problems, quality problems. So we are there to fix it together with the people. Yeah, and so I see this as a kind of a positive stress. Fortunately, I was very lucky to learn over the years many good things that helped me to solve some of these problems rather quickly, together with the people, never alone, always together with the people, very important. This is how I deal with it. Yeah. So again, coming back to the negative emotions, I have them sometimes, or I had them, and I'm not the one who can ignore them. I'm not the one. I know there are people, they just switch off. They come into the company, they just do, what they are told to do, but that's not for me. I need to see sense, and I need to see a vision, and I need to see a purpose and feel a purpose, and otherwise my motivation is going down quickly, and then I will have negative emotions.
Got it. So one learning for me here is if you ever have negative emotions, you should understand and accept them, and certainly communicate it with the team. And if nothing works out, then move on. So
yeah, and what is important, and I'm not sure whether a lot of people have this, because it's really difficult. It's a kind of a self-reflection, because sometimes I had negative emotions for the wrong reasons, not for the right reasons. Sometimes I was wrong, and I had negative emotions, and I should not have had them. Yeah, and I was wrong. I was somehow reading something wrong. I was somehow having an emotion that was a personal thing that had nothing to do with the situation. So it helps you if you can self-reflect, and if you can also understand it's not always the others. It quite often it can be you. Yeah, and but I learned to accept that, and I have now one of my main statements is if I detect that I made a mistake, or if somebody let me know or made it clear to me that I was wrong on something, I say to myself, well, yeah, I was wrong, but why should I be the only person on the planet who makes everything right? Why should I be the only one who makes no mistakes? And that helped me. Yeah. But on the other side, there is a good way to minimize the amount of mistakes, and this is working with people. The better you work with your team, the better you work with the people, the more you listen to the concerns, to the points they are raising, the less mistakes you make. This is a big lesson I have learned. If you want to be a one-man show, you will fail much more often than if you understand that without good collaboration with your team members, with your colleagues, you will achieve any mistakes.
got it. Thank you so much. These were some wonderful insights on how people deal with, and especially top executives deal with, stress and negative emotions. And I would like to take you now to some theoretical, or let's say some technical areas, and discuss a bit about that. So let's dig deep into Lean, Six Sigma, supply chain,